I'm here with Clayton Nolte of ClaytonNolte.com, and he is very knowledgeable and a visionary in my point of view of structured water. Thanks for joining us today, Clayton.
No, thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
You're welcome.
I'm looking forward to what you know and what I can lead you to understand about the qualities that are within all water.
And it was because of my friend Danny, actually, he had bought your house unit. He's in Minnesota as well. And for people watching how I came into contact with Clayton as I was talking to my friend and I was like, which plumber did you call in Minnesota to install this unit, you know? And he's like, oh, I think it's Clayton Nolte. So I'm thinking in my head, this is a local plumbing
Yeah.
a local plumbing. So and then I call your phone number and you're like, this is Clayton. I'm like, how much is it to install the unit? You're like, I don't know, I'm in Arizona, dude. I'm actually the creator of it. I'm like,
Actually,
oh, okay, that makes sense. Are you open to share just some core choice points that happened along your life that led you to where you are today of perhaps becoming a physicist and getting into water?
I am from Minnesota, fertile Minnesota, northwest of
Mhm.
Minneapolis.
So were your parents born in Minnesota?
My mother was. My
Hmm.
dad was born in Germany.
Oh, wow. Okay.
My mother was born in Eitzen, Minnesota. Eitzen is the very tip of Minnesota to the southeast. I went to college at University of North Dakota, Grand Forks. I actually joined the Air Force. My college said I should join the Air Force so I'd know what kind of engineer I wanted to be. The reason they chose Air Force is because I flew my own airplane.
You learned pilot school in Minnesota.
I learned to fly. My instructor was a flight instructor at flight school, actually in my hometown, Fertile, Minnesota. So I
Mhm.
learned to fly there. My brother Walter had an airplane. I purchased an airplane, so we flew a lot. If you wanted to have fun, you wouldn't do it in my hometown because then you'd be the talk of the town forever. So you'd want to go someplace. And we went to places like Denver, Chicago. Winnipeg was fun. I lived on a cabin on a lake, and my next door neighbor had a Cessna 185 on pontoons. Gave me the keys, fly anytime. I went to college, and from college, I went into the Air Force. And the reason I went in the Air Force is I was 2 years in engineering, and they wanted to know what kind of engineer I wanted to be. So they gave me some tests. They recommended that I join the Air Force for 4 years. And at the end of that, I would know what kind of engineer I wanted to be. And why the Air Force? Because I flew my own airplane at the time. They gave me the same tests. I had an invitation by two men in black suits. They offered me a job and I took it. I ended up in the Air Force for 20 years. I worked in research and development in electronic warfare. Structured water was something that I bumped into in my journey, and it was obvious that it was special. I collected some, brought it back to my lab, and did extensive research on it. I bumped into this during my pursuing the education and what my job was in the Air Force. So I was in a multifaceted, fast moving combination of education and on the job training. Where I ran into structured water was in a waterfall. The technology I was working with made the qualities of structured water evident, very evident. It was attractive, and I wanted to know if I could recreate it. I was relegated to do a specific job for the military government, which extended into multiple jobs. I was constantly engaged in quality water because everywhere you go, the water net is not necessarily healthy or quality. You can carry a bottled water or if it's available to you a long ways. But when it's no longer available, then what do you do? So you have to learn to access water and have the technology or the availability within yourself to make the water healthy, no matter where you are in the world. That's what I endeavored to do, and I have accomplished that. I accomplished it with my first company. My first company was Natural Action Technologies. I started Natural Action Technologies. Yeah, I guess I was in Arizona, yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I was in Arcadia or I think Phoenix area, there was a few guys who were talking about that. And then when I was doing the body talk modality, there was a woman who actually had a video, I think, showing your unit with water. And that's where I kind of first probably came across aquaporin channels in the cell and,
Yeah, right.
the size of a molecule and why that matters. And if it's
Right.
large, it's not going to go in the cell. So that helped me learn. That was the beginning of that getting in my awareness, and that was probably around 2013, 2014. So then you had natural action water. Are you open to talk about how you came to design?
In the military, I had samples of water that I wanted to know more about. Fortunately for me, I had access to a research facility with 400 lab technicians and $1 billion worth of lab technology and research. Everybody looking for something to do, so I gave them something to do. I went into a fabrication facility, which is fully accessible in the locations that I was working. And I started developing something that would change the water. And I did that. And I utilized technologies that I have learned through my education. As a physicist, you're primarily looking at energy. Everything that you eat and drink has to be structured in order to be utilized at the cellular level is huge.
Did you have that realization at at the lab when all those technicians were there and all that? Was that part of that beginning of your awareness?
The lab was looking at whatever I told them to look for or look at. One of the pieces of equipment in that lab was a nuclear magnetic resonator. It's an interferometer that actually looks at the shadow of an object or subject.
How would you explain it in simple terms? Why the usefulness of that machine? What does the shadow have to do with water?
The nuclear magnetic resonator was used to show the hydrogen bond angle. It was the angle of the hydrogen atoms connected to a oxygen atom. So you have a water molecule, two atoms of hydrogen, one atom of oxygen. The hydrogen, the angle at which the two atoms of hydrogen come together internal to the oxygen atom. That is the hydrogen bond angle.
The angle that determines the bond.
Right.
And is this similar to the wedding angle, or is that something different, or is it the same thing?
The angle is actually the term hexagonal water. So you have six water molecules in a cluster. The hydrogen bond angle is 120 degrees. That's perfect water. It's called hexagonal water. The term hexagonal water is patented.
Oh, interesting.
So when I go on the air, I would get a bill, or I just don't use the term that much. It's one of the misnomers of the patenting organization. There are several researchers that have written documents about hexagonal water. It is an important value to get people on the path of all of the possibilities, the potential.
Learning about the shadow and the angle, was that part of this chain of evolution of where you wanted to go in the direction?
It's all part of that journey.
Mhm.
It is evidence and that evidence is absolutely locked in everywhere that you go and find structured water or create structured water. The hexagonal water is evidence, and as it is in rain, rain is structured. The hydrogen bond angle of rain does vary a little bit, but in a perfect setting. And the way you see that, you can visually see it in a snowflake. A snowflake is a six-pointed star. Hexagonal water travels in clusters and 6 points, 6 water molecules in a cluster. When you get down into the mathematics of it, I mean, you can take the term hexagonal water. You can take the vision of a water molecule is 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen. Structuring basically is changing one element, which is actually hydrogen. It enables hydrogen to have a hydrogen bond angle where the 2 atoms come together of 120 degrees.
After you learned about the angle, did you link that to vortices, or when did the awareness of vortices, did you learn about Schauberger later?
Yeah, I learned about Schauberger later. I learned about other people later that were going down and learning and let's say developing technologies based on what they have observed or witnessed or developed. All those technologies are in the past. The technology to get to where I am is way beyond Schauberger. He had it down pat. It's just being able to put it into a physical action. There are people who have Schauberger technology now. It produces a small amount of water and it costs a fortune.
For people watching who might not know what we're talking about, this is a German.
He was a common man.
Didn't they implement some of his findings about moving logs through rivers or something
Oh,
like that?
sure. Yes, he wrote books. In fact, the majority of the books were written by a person who worked with him. He developed a significant amount of understanding of the movement of water in nature, where water coming off of out into a pond or a lake from a stream, that the rocks actually floated.
As humans or the United States, were we already aware of surface tension in water and its implications of how humans would use it, or did that not come till like later on, 80s, 90s?
I don't think anybody still understands it. I mean, I talk to thousands of people. Couldn't tell you how many people I talk to in a week or even in a day sometimes, The majority of humanity is ignorant. Even reading the books that Viktor Schauberger eventually were developed based on his wisdom, his knowledge, it's not all that clear. When they put it in writing, not necessarily is it true. Finding the truth is the key. I honor his position, what he did, what he accomplished, and his view. He didn't have the full story.
He was, like so many others, looking at nature. Nature is self-evident in the way it's presenting mechanics and the way things work. And humans go there and try to conceptualize it, and then they kind of construed it, goes through the mental filters, and next thing you know, it's a
Right.
little misperceived. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the only really true way is to start a development. You can do it with computer, and especially today, you have the computer, you have access to the virtual technology. You have to take that technology and actually put it into a physical world. Therein lies major complications.
You're getting all this data from the labs. Why did it end up as a physical device for you that you created?
Getting things from the lab that I had access to is not in the cards. I mean, everything is not available to the public. I think the labs was in so many ways a tool for a higher understanding, knowing that this is possible. So if this is possible, what more is possible? I kept asking that question. And even when I had lab technicians working for me, when we would come to a solution, I would always ask, what more is possible? And and they all would come to a place saying, don't do that. We can't keep up. The what more is possible is virtually unlimited. The limitation, if there is one, is this. It's what you it's what you believe, it's what you know, and even the wisdom that you garner from the knowledge that you have doesn't necessarily always come together in a reliable physical form.
Even though things were possible, what made you want to settle on the prototype that you chose or saw?
When I first started this, I had a dozen or 2 dozen prototypes. I still do. I mean, I made structured water a certain way. As I was going down that avenue of realizing it from, well, whether it was vortices, the understanding of Viktor Schauberger, and several other practitioners, it came down to asking, is this direction in my best interest or in the best interest of creating this product? And a lot of times it was no.
Where did you learn to ask that question? Were you reading or coming across other spiritual literature? Or was this an intuitive thing that came to you?
I don't think I really learned it from anyone. It was an opportunity to put into play simple terms to get a complicated answer. The truth, however, is in the energy world.
Did you start off interest in chemistry and then move to physics, or was the physics part people who are oriented with physical reality, we call them chemists,
Yes.
or and then people oriented with energy are called physicists? And what was your journey from just the Cartesian empirical science 3D reality to the larger picture that's behind the scenes?
My education, I had to know medicine, I had to know physics, I had to know chemistry, I had to know mathematics, I had to know religion. I mean, all these things were essential, what I was doing and traveling.
In the
And
Air Force curriculum,
yes,
it was a multifaceted
right,
orientation.
yes, multifaceted, way beyond multifaceted. When you come down into the structured water thing, it's realizing that water can be extremely healthy. And places you would go to explore that would be, say, the Lords of France and other venerated water sources of the world. There used to be 30 or 40 of them or 50 of them.
And that's not just based on pH alone.
No, the early researchers looking for quality water, they were looking for water that created where you would get detoxing,
Herxheimer reaction.
right? Right.
What was their interest or thinking behind that? Because of detoxification.
Healthy water going into your body will cause the majority of people to detox, basically because their bodies are riddled with toxic conditions. You put structured water into a person, you have to detox before your body can repair or can rebuild.
The energy or water's intelligence of prepping.
Yes, the intelligence of structured water basically is to detox the areas that need to be repaired first, and then it keeps on going on down through. This is true even in a home. If you put structured water in your home, the pipes have to detox in order to give you quality water because the pipes in virtually every home have a history of all the toxins and hydrocarbons and bacteria and molds and pathogens that have ever been in the water are still caught up in the calcium deposits within the pipes, within all of the apparatuses in people's homes. When they first put structured water in, depending upon the biophoton energy level is the way I measure it. Biophoton is similar to the chi of your body, your ability for your cells to communicate with themselves and your brain. That's your energy level, internal. Everything equates from there. It's your immune system. It's all rolled into one very powerful basket. Structured water just enhances that and makes it more viable.
The intelligence is already higher, and thus it's coordinating the energy more effectively.
Yes, it all comes down to your brain making the decisions of what needs to be repaired first or rebuilt first.
Why right now, during this time, is it important for people to learn about the difference between structured water and non-structured water?
If they don't, uh, the struggle is going to be more defined, and many aren't going to make it.
When you say the struggle, do you mean biological struggle or something else?
The struggle is what your choice is. What do you choose to worry about? What do you choose to engage in that really doesn't work? I see it and hear it every day in many different ways when the answer truly is simple. Structuring is simple. It's a simple technology. It's been with us forever. So much of our physiology is also easy. It's easy to change, to correct, to bring back to what it was truly meant to be. What I needed to learn and to be really intently engaged in is what is in the best interest of what I am about to do. If I'm about to create a new structured water technology, then the avenues that I take to do that must be clear.
Were you aware of Tesla at any point in your journey and how he would do that going into his workshop to tinker with things in his imagination before he actually physically made it?
In my career, I mean, I practiced utilizing a couple of technologies that you can do lucid dreaming, remote viewing. If you want to look at what somebody has done in the past, the problem with that is the past and was not necessarily brought to a perfect outcome. In fact, never to a perfect outcome. I mean, all you could do is look at how they developed their technology, maybe.
Metals and plastics, or we're talking about supplements or health devices like red light and everything. All of this is still within the ubiquium of water that is in everything.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily good for you. I was at a more basic level. I was at the level of developing the potential, the would this work aspect.
How did you orient it?
Well, initially, when I was young like you, or even younger, I used my intuition and I used a feeling. I felt what was the right direction to take. It's like coming to a four-way stop. Which way do you turn, or you just go straight? You can drive around in circles for all your life. If I started the wrong way, I felt it when I was on the right path. But if I was on the edge of the right path, things would fail. I was continually asking questions. Eventually, I got into picking up an instrument that worked for me, and I used a pendulum.
And were you familiar with dowsing before you learned about a pendulum?
Yeah, but you have to have tools. You have to have tools with a pendulum also. Here is a peach pit on the end of a piece of string. It's simple, so I could ask the questions I'm answering, am I in truth? And this is a yes.
What do you think about crystal shops that are selling these Tibetan quartz crystal pendulums and all this with all these different,
That's for the physical mind candy.
yeah, mind candy. Okay. Where did the link in the awareness move from dowsing to the pendulums for you? What made you want to use that rather than the dowsing?
I can carry this in my pocket. And dowsing still may be of a benefit if you're looking, say, for a source of drilling a well and hitting water. Today, you can go out you can take a seismograph and a piece of dynamite, drill a hole down the ground and set off the dynamite. If you have a seismograph set up, you can basically see the structures of the earth below. I've seen water wells put down where the water is probably 800 feet down. There are places where the water comes up to a point, and that point might be maybe 6 inches, maybe 6 inches across, and a shaft that goes way, way down. And where drilling the water well come right into that point. That's an individual or two doing dowsing in order to guarantee the specific point on the ground that you can't see anything. You're looking at the energy response, the energetic response of two metal rods and your question. Back in the day, and even today, we talk about non-scientific technologies that work better than science. One of them is radionics. Back in the day, radionics was basically taking a piece of paper and drawing a radio with knobs and a dial, drawing it on a piece of paper, and then setting into motion a question, or let's say an answer. Radionics is a technology that's been in existence for millions of years. It's an energetic way of fixing a problem or knowing the answer. It's all about energy. We are energy beings. You need to figure that out sooner than later. Biophoton. Bio is life, photon is light. You are a living light being. There is no education, there's no books. You weren't meant to know.
Humans are here to experience, but ultimately our mind is limited and the finite can't grasp the infinite.
Right.
Yeah.
We weren't meant to know ever. If you need a specific number or specific term, you have to go back into maybe the past. If you're developing a new way, then you need to step forward into that way, and you have to know what direction to go. You have to know what to engage or who to engage with.
And that's how you did it in prototyping these devices. You stepped into it and you kept on asking the question to refine it and dial it in.
Yes. And I did it from my energy point of view as a physicist. When I engaged with a engineer with a physical technology, getting him to agree to be able to communicate, for me to step down into his world and him to step up into my world.
What was the bridge in the language that you both eventually recognized to be able to hear one another and communicate with one another?
My first adventure in structuring was with natural action technologies. I had already developed the technology physically. Then I went to an engineer, and he had no choice but to take it and redefine it to a degree, and redefine it in accordance with materials and all the other aspects. That technology I developed 28 years ago. And like all researchers and developers, when you come to the point of success, it's not often that you go beyond.
Depending on how we're defining success, and success in the larger picture would be for the sake of the whole, right? Like
Right.
that's the benefit
Right.
of leaving this place better than we found it.
Right,
That's how
exactly.
I choose to define success. I don't, having the big house and the status symbol of whatever certain name brands and stuff, I could care less.
I understand that. So you get to this place and you come to a solution, and the solution works. The getting there, the time, the expenditures, it's expensive.
What was specifically expensive? Just the research and development for the engineer to test the different models.
For me, as the researcher and developer, to test the different models.
Because you no longer had access to these labs of when you were in
right?
military and stuff, so you had to build your own or buy your own equipment to test it.
Yes. And believe me, that equipment is expensive.
And
Very.
was it similar to the lab, or did you try new technologies to get readings?
I kind of started down the road of equipment. You can spend $15,000 for a piece of equipment that you only use once or twice.
No
It's
friends who owned the equipment you could have borrowed for the day.
no, 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 no one.
Yeah.
Even today, you're in a unique world. I don't know anybody that has the equipment. I mean, in some of the first equipment that I utilized really, really successfully was a GDV, gas discharge visualization, basically.
Right. And this is developed, was this
Uh,
what,
Konstantin Kurokov, physicist at the University of St. Petersburg, Russia.
how did you learn about the GDV camera?
He actually came here, Sedona. I sponsored him for at least two classes. I used his camera to prove structured water technology.
So gas is referring to what specifically in this context?
What gas do you off gas? Hydrogen. All living things off gas hydrogen. You're viewing the discharge.
They show the difference between tap water, spring water, and then structured water. Is that from
Right.
the view of the GDV camera?
Right. And there's also looking at a person and viewing their physiology, which the GDV does really, really well, and showing every disease. And so you set that up, and then you give a person a glass of water. 15 minutes later, you go in and do another study, and their whole physiology changes.
Okay, giving them structured water.
The GDV has a capability of doing water, of doing a stone or a piece of plastic. I mean, there's really nothing that you can't observe the energy of with the GDV. Again, it's gas discharge visualization. You're looking at the energy, the off gas, the ions of the physical world. I just had chose to be able to view it and to know how to manipulate it. And the manipulation was from the perspective of structuring water and manipulating the human genome. You can prove on a 50 or 60-year-old man with liver cancer that when you give them structured water that it changes their cancer and prove it.
In Western medicine, you might read, oh, the liver cells regenerate in every 7 days or something like this. And
Sure.
then when we look at older physics books and even some Vedic literature, maybe that were like flashing in and out of existence at billions of times a second, in
Right.
that there is some kind of appear, disappear, rearranging that's happening faster than we can even fathom or our technology will ever be able to read.
Yes. And that's hydrogen for you. Hydrogen is moving at such a fast rate that you can't hardly see it move. How do people think that you can actually put hydrogen in a bottle and take a drop of it? That's it. It's it's mind-boggling to me how it
Oh,
doesn't exist. Even people that do Kangen technology,
oh yeah. So
the
yeah,
ionization, hydrogen lasts maybe 20 seconds, maybe.
you're gonna have a bunch of people screaming at their computers now. The Kangen machine is like a water ionizer, and basically, for people who haven't heard of this, it is basically using purported to have a titanium plate that's separating, right? Using electrolysis to separate water molecules. Is that accurate with their
Right,
claims?
right. Yeah, the misnomer here is though, in order to get more hydrogen, you have to remove the oxygen. I don't think they say it that way. But again, for people who have a cancer that creates tumors, hydrogen will soften the tumor. Why? Because hydrogen is attracted to carbon, and a tumor is carbon.
There was a doctor that wrote some book from Japan, and I think Kangen uses that, the colonoscopy surgeon or something, to kind of
Right,
validate.
right,
And I fell for it. I was in Arizona, I was in Phoenix. I had friends, and one of them, I went to one of their demos and all this, and I didn't know. So that's why it's really important, everyone watching this, is really do your homework and actually know the science and physics of it. When I was in Arizona, I was like, oh, maybe it's better to eat vegetarian. I went to these raw food meetups. I bought a Kangen machine, 4 grand
right. Sure you did.
that I paid off. I was paying off for Then I actually had a body talk session with my mentor at the time, and he's like, "You're over alkaline, like what are you doing?"
Right,
And he just knew that through the modality that he was doing. And Kangen never talked about that. They never talked about it in the workshop. It
right,
was never really talked about that the stomach does need a acidic state, and if you're blasting it with 9.5 pH, you're
right.
gonna have an imbalance in your digestion, and that's what I had. I stopped drinking the 9.5 constantly because I thought it would do this big change in my physiology, and then I just moved. I
It
just
did. It did a big
it
change.
did do it, yeah,
Now you just have more problems.
yeah, yeah.
But increasing the pH in your body, one of the first things it does is it takes away from your ability to digest food. Your digestion network needs to be 6.4 as acid.
Right. And so a lot of vegans and vegetarians and microbiotic people, or a lot of people in Sedona even, it's like cooking food's bad and it's all acidic and it's going to give you cancer. And it's like, well, you can be over alkaline. You can get sick as well.
Having your alkalinity high also increases what? Blood sugar. Not necessarily a good thing. There's a whole lot of other things it does. The truth of water is to stay balanced, coherent, everything in perfect harmony.
When I became a little bit more aware of the Kangen stuff, I did start to speak out on social media and just say a little bit more like, hey, these are like multi-thousand-dollar machines. There's stuff that people selling them didn't even know basic physiology, basic, you know what I mean? Basic science, basic physics of like they would get the script and then parrot it, and then people who didn't have the awareness would come in like I did, and then until I woke up and I was like, well, and then sell the machine. It's like I really don't need this.
Right? No one needs it.
My interest in wanting to talk to you more and learn more about your technologies is because I feel like I've started off broad, all these things going down, and it's kind of getting more narrow and more narrow and more narrow.
Right?
And even till the last 5 years or something, just being aware of all these different nutrition companies and powders, getting into supplements more and all these things. And then with talking with you and learning about more things, realizing that, the ionic liquid form of minerals is actually more beneficial than actually taking physical supplements. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more your view on that.
The liquid form is more easily digested. And when things are easily digested, things happen faster. I mean, everything works better. And your body has a whole lot more energy to utilize to repair, rebuild, give you energy to run that mile or 10 or 20. It takes energy. It takes physical energy of your body in order to aid your physiology to be hydrated every day. If you're not drinking structured water, the amount of energy a 35-year-old man or woman puts out from your physical body to be hydrated every day. If you could convert that to electricity, you could light your house up for a month. It's simple. But again, if and because your body has to structure, it has to structure the water you drink. It has to make it available to carry the digested energy, the energy of the food you eat and drink to every cell in your body. Everything you eat and drink goes out your elimination system.
Since biohacking became a term, right? And Dave Asprey, this guy, kind of its terminology and like everybody talking about, well, how can we detox, right? So then moves in like zeolite and diatomaceous earth and different forms of clay or montmorillonite clays that people either put in their skin or they're ingesting internally. You have charcoal, different types of things that are purported to chelate metals or at least bind them. People will talk about all these different things that they can take to detox metals. How is it that structured water can also contain metals and remove them from the body, or how does that work, or what are the benefits of structured water for detoxing, into contrast of taking all these supplements and all these binders and all these things?
The first principle of structuring is to change hydrogen, and that's done through the vortex, basically the speed. There's a whole lot of dynamic technology in creating that correctness to make hydrogen perfect. If you make one atom of hydrogen perfect, every atom it comes in contact with is made in its image perfect.
Where does this concept come from in physics, like holographic theory, entanglement? What are we talking about when it has an influence in something that it's not the same, and that thing that is not the same adheres to mirror it?
The vortices basically are a multi-directional vortice event that actually moves the hydrogen at such a way to bring it to its perfect state of being. And everything that exists has hydrogen in it. When you change hydrogen, you change everything in its path. People always often ask me, how do I know my structured water device is working? I tell them to pour a glass of structured water through their device, walk out to their car, start the engine, pop the hood, and go around and smell their exhaust. Their exhaust is poison, difficult to stand in. Go lift the hood. Off to the right side of your radiator is a overflow tank for the radiator. Take the cap off, pour the glass of water into that, put the cap back on, shut the hood, go back and smell your exhaust. Your exhaust is sweet. You can stand in it all day. It's all about energy. Basically, every atom of hydrogen in your automobile, the instant the water hit that tank, every atom of hydrogen was changed. The gasoline in the tank will be non-toxic.
Basically, as humans, we don't comprehend, and we will never comprehend how this mirroring effect or this entanglement works. We can attempt to give it words, but essentially it's just doing what it does, regardless of our naming it and comprehending it.
Right, right. Exactly. Exactly. You can name it any direction you want
Call it what you want.
and color it any direction you want, any color you want. It
Yeah.
is going to be regardless.
Mhm.
Perfect.
So the devices that you made, the diameter determines like how fast it's going to vortices, or the speed, basically like the entry point.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, I did write an article about this. I can send it to you
Yeah,
anytime.
yeah, I'd be interested in reading it, please.
The aspect of energy versus volume, it has to do with movement, yes, but also wave flow form, waveform, specific mathematical sizes, shapes.
Are we talking
And
about like the phi ratio?
yes,
Okay.
and that too. Yes, it's all in there. And the formula makes the outcome perfect. The article I wrote was based on my whole direction of this new technology was to create energy because it's the energy that it aids the human physiology to repair and rebuild quickly.
So what was the contrast between the first kind of sequence of models that you did to the new ones that you did? The first version didn't have the depth of the energy focus.
Right. Basically because it worked and I stopped there. I didn't go any further.
Work defined as it bring bigger yield with plants, it cleaned up
Right.
toxins in water,
It,
it did
it,
basic.
it demonstrated itself on the GDV as way beyond normal water, or let's say regular water. Not all spring water is healthy. In fact, very little of it is anymore.
Yeah, and this is true because, well, learning about aluminum, for example, like aluminum plants in other countries that aren't regulated, that goes up, circulates, and then is binds to cold temperatures. So like places like Mount Shasta, which I've been, they have kind of two different main areas where people would go and get water. But if that aluminum circulating in that snow up there and it melts down, are then they're just drinking aluminum water almost, thinking that
Right.
it's
It
like
is.
pure
And that's from chemtrails primarily.
barium, strontium,
Barium.
aluminum.
Yeah. And say 8 years ago, there was no strontium in chemtrails. So why is there strontium now? Because airplanes, in order to make an airplane out of aluminum, they have to add strontium. Otherwise, every bird that hit an airplane would go right through it. Strontium makes aluminum hard, and strontium is about $1,500 an ounce. They are grinding up old airplanes, which contain strontium, and now you have strontium. No inventor or physicist in his right mind would put $1,500 an ounce strontium up in the atmosphere and just for to create a chemtrail. So the problem today is there's not enough sunshine to to uh, to enable the apples on the trees to mature. The apples in the grocery store are basically green.
Radiated to grow faster.
Well, they're radiated by, I believe, arsenic to make them red. Same way with strawberries, make them red. Sunlight is becoming, back in even that time, was becoming problematic. And it was a way to diminish the radiation of the sun onto the planet. The original chemtrails, and they went into the G20. So now you have it in every country in the world. And even if you wanted to stop it, you'd have to you'd have to get the chemical companies to agree. They aren't going to do that. And the problem with the chemtrails today is they are limiting the ability to grow food. And that's not the only thing that's limiting the ability to grow food. The acid in the ocean, acids all across the world are limiting the ability for life to grow. It's becoming a problem.
If you found this conversation interesting and supportive, you can go to pneumathrive.com to the products tab on the top of the website. And on the products page, you can learn more about Clayton Nolte's structured water technology. and purchase it here. You can learn about the benefits, the studies, and the science. And all the different devices that you wish to purchase are on this page, such as the portable structure water device, the shower structure water device, the sink structure water device, as well as a structuring unit for the whole home. You can click the Buy Now button, and that will take you to a separate page with more specific information about the structured water device that you're interested in. Scroll to the bottom, there is another Buy Now button, which you will click, and this will take you to the contact page. You can just put your first name, your email address, and in the text area, just put what structured water device you are interested in purchasing. If this video was supportive and useful to you, please consider sharing it with friends and family, and we'll see you in part 2. Thanks for watching.